Falls debuted back in 2012, and I've definitely seen a few episodes and really loved the show from what I did see, but I never actually got around to watching every single episode. So I figured I'd remedy that by actually watching it through completely as I draw some of the characters from it. I figured a good starting point would be Mabel Pines, the older of the twins by only 5 minutes, and one of my favorites from the show. I love her much less serious approach to all things mysterious. To me, Mabel is optimistic, pretty silly, and extremely energetic, and I don't know what it is about these types of characters, but I'm just really drawn to them. On another note, to all those following my Stranger Things series, I'll be revisiting it a little later just because I'm not so sure everyone was really ready to talk about the latest season as much as I was. So I figured I'd switch it up, and since I've already done Amphibia and the Owl House, it just made sense to do a bit of Gravity Falls. So who's next? I started Gravity Falls with Mabel Pines yesterday, so of course her twin brother Dipper Pines is next. It's interesting because Mabel is full of quite a lot of spirit and energy and just overall optimism, but Dipper on the other hand seems to be more introverted, and not the stay in the house all day kind of introvert, since he's way too curious for that, but rather he seems more comfortable with himself, his thoughts, and his emotions, rather than, well, other people. He's also pretty rational, kind of self-aware, and pretty intelligent, so he's definitely a vital character when it comes to the mysteries that happen around Gravity Falls, probably because he enjoys finding patterns and making connections between things, so I can see why he gets frustrated with Mabel, who's often in her own world. But that doesn't mean he's always right, like in the first episode with the zombie boy, who instead turns into 5 gnomes in a trench coat. To be fair, I don't think anyone saw that coming. So who's next? Wendy is up next from Gravity Falls, and I've always loved Wendy's super laid-back personality. She's pretty down to earth and mellow, and I really tried to focus on capturing that on my take of her. I also kind of find it funny how casually rude she can be, like when she realizes Dipper isn't his actual name, apparently it's Mason, but when he reveals he has a birthmark in the shape of the Big Dipper, it all makes sense to her, and she admits to Dipper that she really just thought his parents hated him or something. Like, dang Wendy. She's also pretty good at avoiding responsibility at work and is constantly reading magazines instead of, say, cleaning the shack or other miscellaneous tasks when there's no one checking out at the cash register. Even so, she does join Mabel and Dipper on some adventures, and she's a great friend in the end. So who's next? Could Soos be Grunkle Stan's son? Sounds a little wild, but according to user Unsharpened Pencil, he could be. The theory goes that Soos's dad sends him postcards from all over the US. We also know that Stan has been around the US too. Who's to say Stan doesn't have a whole stash of postcards that he collected from when he traveled and is sending them out now to Soos as a cover-up? The other thing is, Soos was hired immediately by Stan, so is it possible Stan already knew him? Alex Hirsch voices both Stan and Soos, so they sound kind of similar apparently, thus perhaps implying a genetic relation. Of course, Soos wouldn't know he's the son, but this would make him Mabel and Dipper's second cousin. My own thoughts on this are, it's a fun theory, but it sounds a little too far-fetched, because if Stan was his dad, why not just tell him? What's the big secret for? So what do you think? And who's next? Were Ida Cawthorn from the Owl House and Stan Pines from Gravity Falls married at some point? You all know I love a good theory, but this one is actually confirmed. Apparently Stan recalls being married to a woman named Marilyn for less than a day while in Las Vegas, but Marilyn married Stan because she wanted his casino winnings. Stan goes on to say, I guess her name was fake and her hair was fake, but the love was real, and she was chased by cop cars for about a mile out of Vegas. And if that's not a proper Ida exit, I don't know what is. Anyway, Stan describes Marilyn with pale bingo hall skin and one weirdly sharp tooth. It's then revealed that in the human world of the Owl House, a woman named Marilyn is banned from a local cafe. When we see the picture of this Marilyn lady, lo and behold, there's Ida smiling in the picture. I honestly love this crossover and weirdly find it kind of endearing. Could Bill Cipher of Gravity Falls have been reborn as king from the Owl House? Don't get me wrong, I know that the creators have stated that these two shows are separate worlds, but after that whole Ida Cawthorn possibly being the Marilyn woman that Stan married in Vegas, I just can't help but find a ton of fun in these crossover theories. Spoilers for Gravity Falls and the Owl House. So in the end, before being killed, Bill Cipher begins yelling some sort of chant backwards. He basically says, my time has come to burn, I invoke the ancient power that I might return. And maybe he does return, as king from the Boiling Isles. It just so happens King seems to be a god too in his own world. And of course, the biggest thing is that Alex Hirsch voices both characters, and while we know Alex has great range with his voice, he doesn't change it up very much between Bill and King. So what do you think? Could Smart Waddles from Gravity Falls still be alive in a parallel universe? According to user Sunblux Anniamptions, he could be. Sunblux explains that the cryptogram of the episode Little Gift Shop of Horrors says, check out Dr. Waddles' latest book, A Brief History of Oink 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 Oink. So clearly that means in a parallel universe, Smart Waddles is still alive, perhaps as a brilliant scientist, much like his talking machine voice actor, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He probably writes many famous books and wins many awards for his great works of science. It's a cute little theory, except is it really canon that Waddles ever got smart to begin with? Because in that episode, Stan proceeds to tell us some tales as he tries to convince us to buy his stuff, and each item has a story with it. But Stan admits he says he made it up. So what do you think?